how the pacing, how it changes with the music. And obviously, if it's a shape going through a platformer or it's a platformer game, there's no story to tell. But so you're telling the story visually. And I think that's probably the best example a lot of people can probably understand is because when you see those elements of pacing, how the cuts and the edits are aligned with each other and everything, you see how visually that is actually telling a story, especially when it aligns with the music. And that's what I mean from a trailer perspective and like a promo video. You want to cut something uh, like that opposed to just showing gameplay because it's going to be more engaging. It's going to get people more excited about the game, and it draws in like basic story structure. You have a quick hook. It shows a little bit of progression. You have the climax. Climax could be like a boss fight, and then you end with like a lower point, and then obviously you're slugged for the the title card for what the game is and stuff.
Great. So you're talking more like the trailers, yeah?
Yeah, specifically. I mean,
Thank
other content and putting it on your channel is good too, because as you start developing an audience, like you mentioned briefly before, like devlogs and things like that, that's going to be helpful on a going to a different end. Twitch streams, that stuff's helpful too. But it's really, I think, comes down to more than anything that some people might have a difficult time grasping for. They hear all the success with Twitch streams and everything, and that's definitely a good thing to consider. But sometimes starting out, you might not necessarily get that attention. But with whatever your content that you're producing, whether it's regardless of where it is and what it is, starting out, it's going to take time to get there, but you'll get there eventually. It's just it's going to take time. So regardless of what you're doing, regardless of what minimal results you might get starting out, it will add up in time. Just sometimes it will take longer for some than others, and don't let that bother you. That's just how it goes sometimes.
thank you. And in terms of the paid advertising in YouTube and adverts, anything you can say about that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, in a lot of cases, I wouldn't focus so much. Like, let's say if you have a lot of devlogs, I wouldn't necessarily promote those unless there's, let's say, maybe something of comedic value behind it or something. I would just be careful with that because I think some devlogs can, depending on who you're targeting, like just again, be mindful of your audience because who you're targeting, devlogs might not be that interesting, especially if you're like, showcasing on like Markiplier site, channel. They might not really care, but they could. You don't know. You'd have to be mindful of that. But I would say something that's just like really eye catching. It could just be quick, gameplay footage. If you have a trailer, obviously you can promote that. But I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can go about it. But I like to think of efforts that are also scalable because we know that time and resources are limited. So what you're producing for some of your content, if you can find ways to repurpose that and use it as an ad, it could be another good way to test things out too. So maybe if you're testing some of that stuff out, you could see like, oh, wow, a lot of people watched this all the way through, opposed to this video. So maybe I'll use that for my next Twitter post, for example, or Facebook post or whatever. So a lot of different ways you could do that. But for ads, I would say just make it pacing. Honestly, it just comes down to what I was saying about the trailer. It doesn't have to be another trailer, but make sure there's some type of narrative or the pacing is in a manner that is not like really slow or just somehow it's captivating. So whether that could be a slow introduction of something that's creating mystery or people not knowing what's going on, and then you finally slowly reveal it. That's one way of doing it. Or another is just having a lot of quick cuts with fast-paced music. That could be another effective way. But it really depends on your game, the style of your game, and what your main objective is too.
Thank you so much. This has been absolutely fabulous. It's fascinating, Andrew, really. How can people reach you if they want to get in touch?
So I would say the best way is to you can reach me out directly on email, which is andrew@rengenmarketing.com. I am on Twitter and Facebook occasionally. The handle is at Rengen Marketing. Our Facebook page is just Rengen Marketing. But really the best way to, get in touch with me, I would say would be by email, which is andrew@rengenmarketing.com.
Lovely. Thank you. Thanks so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you so much.
An extra half an hour, so that's how much fun.
Yeah. And I really appreciate you guys having me because like I said, it's just awesome to be here. And I'm glad I could be a part of this great community to help out others. So thank you.
No, that's great.
Hey, everybody, and thanks again for listening to Indie Game Movement, the podcast that talks about the marketing and business of indie games. Hey, if you want to check out the show notes for this episode, feel free to do so by going to indiegamemovement.com. And I just want to thank our podcast producer, Mustafa Price, and give a special thanks to Taisuke Kimura, who composed the theme, and Donnie Wilson for the logo design. Just really appreciate your help and hard work, guys. If you have any questions or suggestions for the podcast, feel free to email us at igm@rengenmarketing.com. Rengen Marketing is a company that I co-founded that provides consulting services to indie devs. And on our website, we also provide really helpful, in-depth content on our blog. And we also have a free marketing plan template that you guys can use for your next game. So thanks again for listening right here on Indie Game Movement.